So by now, most of you have heard of the OnePlus 7 Pro. In fact, we did our initial review on the channel just about a month ago. But now, 1 month later, it's time to see if the OnePlus 7 Pro did in fact live up to all the hype. Yo guys, this is Luke with Android Police, and here are my thoughts on the OnePlus 7 Pro 1 month later. Starting off, we're not going to talk about all the specs because most of you already know them. We are mainly going to focus on real-world performance and everyday use, which is what really matters. So with that out of the way, let's begin by talking about the biggest elephant in the room, the camera. As mentioned in our earlier review, the camera is good, not great. However, through a series of much needed updates, it's moved from good to better. Shots are far more consistent, dynamic range is much better overall, and images are detailed but not necessarily over sharpened. Specifically the secondary lenses, the ultra-wide and telephoto have seen a significant improvement both in detail and proper exposure levels. Before the updates, exposure tended to be inconsistent, always leaning on the brighter side. However, now they seem to have balanced out. That being said, the ultra-wide camera is definitely still the softest of the lenses, and while it still produces a great field of view, images still tend to be more washed out. With regards to the telephoto, everything is about the same. The only things improved here were the contrast levels in shots and overall consistency. Now the main shooter is still the best, producing some great results that are sharp, detailed, and have a wide dynamic range. White balance still seems to be somewhat finicky, however that is easily fixed in post and most people won't even be able to tell. Lastly, the motorized selfie camera is still a great feature and amazes anyone I show it to. Images are also quite good. It nails portrait mode about 90% of the time and photos are detailed but not too sharp. Of course, you really shouldn't expect too much from a front-facing camera to begin with, however, you will not be disappointed by OnePlus's offerings. All in all, the camera is pretty decent, but definitely is still the handicap of the phone. This doesn't necessarily mean you should discount the OnePlus 7 Pro, it still outperforms many of its competitors in other areas, and the camera shouldn't be a reason to shy away. There are a lot of people that would say because of the camera you should just buy a Galaxy S10 or even an iPhone XS Max, and while the camera is still the weakest point of the phone, it doesn't necessarily mean the phone is weak. The easiest place to see this is in the overall speed and performance of the OnePlus 7 Pro. I mean, wow, the phone is fast, incredibly fast, and I know we've said it before, but this is still by far the fastest phone I've ever used. Even a month later, the phone feels as if I just took it out of the box. Now, part of this is due to the blazing fast Snapdragon 855 processor and this 90Hz display. I mean, talk about a dynamic duo. The phone is wicked fast and handles everything with no problem. Everyday tasks such as social media and texting, Spotify, all work together seamlessly, and even with the medium tier 8GB model, I don't see a need for more RAM. I know other creators have the 6GB version and they are touting similar results. The point is the phone is incredibly fast, the animations are smooth, and everything just works. Now as far as gaming goes, everything translates over just the same. I've had no hiccups or stutters, everything is still incredibly smooth. Do keep in mind not every game is optimized for the 90Hz refresh rate, however even in 60, things still look amazing. So that brings us on over to battery life, and normally you would assume that with such a high refresh rate and a large display that battery life would be less than stellar. Fortunately for us, this isn't the case. The OnePlus 7 Pro still gets me through more than a full day and sometimes two depending on my usage. Now mileage is going to vary person to person, but with that 4000 mAh battery, I consistently get to 6 to 8 hours of screen on time. And with the phone on standby, no power is really used at all. This means I have yet to charge the phone twice in one day, but were I to, this would also not be an issue thanks to the 30-watt warp charger included. Now I think that charging this phone is just about as fast as using it. I easily get to 50 if not 55% in 20 minutes and a full charge in around 60. Now in the past, OnePlus devices have focused more on function over form, but they've really stepped it up with the 7 Pro. Just look at this phone. It's got an amazing soft touch glass back that seems to shimmer right off the edge. It's sleek and while still heavy, it doesn't feel unbalanced. Corners are softly round and everything about the phone just screams premium. One word of caution though, because of that soft glass back, the phone is one of the slipperiest ones I've used. Thankfully though, you can pick up a skin or case like the one I have from today's sponsor, Dbrand. This is the Dbrand grip and it provides a stylish and yet tactile protection to make sure you don't drop your phone, but if you do, you should be fine. You can check them out in the description below. So another initial point of concern was the in-display fingerprint sensor. However, I can confidently say that all of my hesitations have now been resolved. After the initial update, the fingerprint, for me at least, works 99% of the time. It's fast. In fact, it's just as fast as most capacitive scanners on the market. However, there does seem to be a few issues with it in direct sunlight, but none that cause me too much of an issue. Now, like I mentioned in my personal review, I found for best results, you should just press a little on the sensor rather than resting your finger. This seems to be the quickest and most consistent way of getting a proper read. All this being said, it's probably one of my favorite features of the phone, and from what I've heard, it outshines the Galaxy S10's reader by miles. So lastly, let's talk about the display, and this hasn't changed at all. It's still a fluid AMOLED display with a 90Hz refresh rate that honestly puts most of the market to shame. It's just so beautiful to look at and use, and it's the first phone in a long time that I use just because it's enjoyable. I mean, animations are too smooth to show on camera, and the overall operation is incredibly fluid. Apart from that, the colors and detail are great, saturation is punchy but not overwhelming, and the edge-to-edge nature just feels as if you are using all glass. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the curved edges, and while I would have liked to see a flat panel, it doesn't take away from the beauty of the display. Overall, the QHD Fluid AMOLED display rivals that of Samsung's and is probably my favorite thing about the phone. 30 days later, the phone is still as amazing as day one. The incredible speed, power efficiency, display, and fingerprint scanner all make this phone well worth its weight. Now, although the camera isn't necessarily up to the very best, it's still good, and it doesn't take away from the overall experience. All in all, the OnePlus 7 Pro is a great addition to the OnePlus lineup, and I'm so excited for what future handsets will look like. So let me know your thoughts about the OnePlus 7 Pro. Are you excited for OnePlus or think that they should stick to budget devices? That's going to wrap it up for this video though. If you are new to the channel, consider liking and subscribing. If you want to check out some of my own work, feel free to subscribe over there too. This is Luke with Android Police, and I'll catch you in the next video.